Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's live demo of our first arriving real-time information platform. Today, we'll show you how we bring clarity to the hundreds of data points your department manages every day, turning disconnected systems, alerts, schedules, and status updates into one unified operational picture. During this session, you'll see how our platform integrates over 130 mission-critical systems and features, including CAD, RMS, scheduling, training, and more, and transforms that data into actionable real-time insights accessible on digital signage, web, tablets, and mobile devices. You'll also experience how we help departments minimize outdated manual communication methods like whiteboards, bulletin boards, emails, and scattered systems, replacing them with an always up-to-date information that improves readiness, strengthens communication, and keeps crews focused on what matters most. Respect your time, and we'll keep today's walkthrough to under 45 minutes. After the session, we'll send you a copy of the presentation so you can share it with colleagues or decision makers who want to understand the impact of a real-time information platform in action. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to jump into introductions. My name is Stephanie Harvey. I'm the Director of Marketing here at First Arriving. I'm previously a marketing communications public servant. I transitioned to supporting products that I truly believe in and recognize the value they offer to our local public agencies. Joining me today is Bruce, our Director of Sales. Bruce is a leader in the fire service with over 40 years of experience spanning career, combination, volunteer, and military agencies. He brings deep expertise in training, command, and fire policy development. As a seasoned instructor and national presenter, Bruce's insights are rooted in decades of real-world leadership and hands-on instruction. Thanks for joining me today, Bruce.
Pleasure.
And then now we'll cover our short agenda. In a minute, I'll hand things over to Bruce. He'll walk you through the live demo and highlight the key capabilities of our real-time information platform, including dashboard views, mobile functionality, and how everything works together to keep your team informed and ready. He'll also show how 1,400 plus public safety agencies across the US and Canada use First Arriving to modernize their communication, streamline their operations, and ensure critical information is always accessible where and when it matters most. After the demo, we'll move into a Q&A session, followed by contact information and recommended next steps. At any point during the live demo, please feel free to submit your questions using the Q&A box. We'll respond there directly, or we'll have Bruce address them throughout the presentation. And with that, I am going to go ahead and hand it off to you, Bruce.
All right. Stephanie, thank you very much. As Stephanie said, thank you for joining us today. Again, my name is Bruce. I'm the sales director for First Arriving. And as we get ready to get started today, I'm going to be sharing my screen with you in just a moment. As I do that, one of the things that I want to do is I want to just share some ideas with you today related to what we're really trying to solve for here at First Arriving. One of the things that we need to be thinking about is communication within public safety. And as you see our dashboard environment kind of scrolling in the background, one of the things that I want you to be thinking about today is what are we trying to solve for with this solution? So, one of the things that I know from my own personal experience, and I'm sure that many of you are on today's demo with us, have experienced over time, is the inability or the struggle to communicate effectively across your organization. And one of the things that we have to all acknowledge is that we're basically drowning in data today. And what we mean by that is that as you think about your particular day to day life, you have information that is bombarding you from virtually everywhere, from the time you wake up in the morning and you check your phone to see what the date is, what your calendar looks like, what's going on in social media and the news. Then you report to work. You start your day, you're trying to figure out what your personnel are doing, who's behind on what reports. When a call comes in, where are you going? What's the cross streets? What's the hydrants? What are your high risk buildings? Where do you have the highest risk exposure? Whose driver's license is about to expire? whose EMT license is about to expire. And one of the things that we have to acknowledge is that all of that data is bifurcated across a multitude of different platforms. And what we also have to acknowledge is that today, in order for us to have good informational situational awareness related to how am I doing across all of these different platforms, this generally means that for most of us, we're going to spend a good bit of the day anchored to a desk and having to log into a multitude of different platforms in order to obtain that situational awareness. And it's a very inefficient system. And for many of our line staff, unless there is a punitive reason, they're simply not motivated to stay up on a lot of this information. So that's really what first arriving is here to solve for. And if you can think about it like this, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to take all of this data that lives in all of these different platforms and bring the situational awareness of what's going on and bring that into a conduit where now in one source of truth, your people understand what's going on. Now, to be very clear, the information that we're talking about still lives in these platforms. But what first arriving is going to do is that we're going to now give you the ability in which to be able to look at a display, whether that's a physical display in the station, whether that's logging in using a username and password from a desktop, or from your phone, you now have the power in which to be empower your people and have them be informed and have actionable data at their fingertips to know what they need to do. So when we think about what are we trying to solve for today and make sure that everybody is empowered with the right information and have a single source of truth that they can now utilize and be empowered to use so that they can take care of their own success and their own compliance going forward, that's really what we're here to do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through the platform, kind of show you the general basics of what our platform does. Okay. As an information solution, the idea here is again, we're thinking about all the different places that information lives for your organization and getting it into a digital display environment so that people truly understand what's going on. So, one of the very, very first things that we need to talk about is call alerting. And while virtually every fire department, police department, EMS agency today already has call notifications that are coming in via your dispatch centers, that's, audible alerts, that's voice alerts, maybe that's house lights, house bells, these kinds of things. The other thing is, how can we make sure that our people are knowing where they're going? So what we can do is that we can take that CAD data and now put it into a display that is meaningful for your people. Again, in addition to your house lights, your house bells, and audible notifications, now we can actually give them a display. Can show what the resources are that are being dispatched. We can show the time elapsed for turnout times. We can also start showing them turn by turn instructions. As we think about this, this is just a display that will be going on for a period of time that your agency can set for the initial dispatch. And just as you saw with our display here, after a period of time, the display is going to revert back to its kiosk mode, which is what you're also seeing here. It's what's been displayed while I've been talking. The idea of kiosk mode is that this is going to be a series of informational panels that are going to scroll throughout the day to show various aspects of information. So now it doesn't matter if they're looking for turnout times or when their EMT license is going to expire. As you can see from this screen, who's actually going to be on shift today or tomorrow at station 1 versus station 2 and so on. Now you have the ability to have this information routinely being displayed throughout the day. Now, when a call comes in, again, we're going to go back to an alarm screen. Now, one of the things that's nice about our alarm screens, though, is that they have the ability to have various panels added to it. So, as you can see from the example that's on the screen now, in addition to having the dispatch information in text, turn by turn instructions, we can also layer in Google Street View. And we can do this as a static view, or we can also do it in 360 view to where you can actually see a full circle of the actual location. So now, as part of your incident size up, your people are actually able to identify visually if they're at the proper address or not. This information can come from Google Streets, can also come from Esri. So, depending upon where this information is already originating from your organization, will determine how we can do that. But there are other examples about how we can also overlay from Esri data, as an example, your hydrant locations. So, given the particular alarm, your first due, second due company will know where that hydrant is. We can also substitute regular mapping with satellite views. We also have the ability to bring in iPulse alerts. So, this is your silver alerts, your amber alerts, when you have a telephone outage, if you have fire danger warnings that are being posted, whatever those are coming from the federal iPulse based upon zip code, we can now give those alerts right on the dashboards as well. As we also think about this, as we start thinking about your records management system, now what we're able to do is we're starting to take out your turnout times, who has completed or who has outstanding reports, which is usually a headache for many of us as we think about compliance of our people and making sure they're getting their reports done in a timely manner. We can actually display this a couple of different ways. So, depending upon what's going on for your organization and preferences that you have, based upon where the information is coming in from your third party integrations, which we'll talk more about, now we can start deciding how you want this information displayed within the dashboard environment. Again, you can also see things like out of service equipment information and all kinds of other things that lives in your records management system. And then we can actually start bringing that information in. Even things like equipment maintenance, burn permits. These are just examples of different ways that we can actually bring that information in for you. Now, also, as we think about other platforms that we can actually bring in as a third party integration, you can see that we can bring in your scheduling information. So, if you're, depending upon if you're utilizing scheduling software or if you just have schedules on a spreadsheet, in either event, we can actually bring in your scheduling information and who's going to be assigned where. Again, depending upon which third party integration you have, we'll decide how we can display this, how we can tile it in for you. But these are just some different examples about how your schedules and events can be displayed for your people so that they have the awareness that they need about who's going to be assigned to what resource on any particular day. As we move into the learning management system, now we can start looking at your certificates that are expiring, upcoming training that's coming on, who has overdue assignments, and who have assignments that's upcoming and is going to need to be completed soon. Okay, again, the idea here is that in a brief view, they can simply look up, take a glance, and understand simply by red, yellow, and green what their status is and if there's things that they need to do. As we think about asset management, which is something that a lot of us, regardless of police, fire, EMS, are embracing as a technology today. Again, doesn't matter if you're doing this from a spreadsheet environment or if you're using a third party integration, which to bring this information in. Now we give you the ability to alert certain maintenance issues that are going on, who has outstanding truck checks, if there is particular alerts out there for everything from apparatus bay heaters, whatever that may be. Now we're able to make sure that we're able to bring that information in. Unit status is another big thing. Who's available for calls? Who's busy? Who's been running a lot of calls? If you're pulling in this information, whether that's third party integration or whether that is from a spreadsheet, we can now start displaying this information for you in a tangible way so people are able to see what is going on at any given time. We also don't mind a little bit of friendly competition from time to time. And so that friendly competition, when we think about being able to respond to turnout times and those kinds of things, and we can start looking at what the average time is per company as an example. And now we can start bringing that friendly competition to your crews, as well as improving the service delivery to Mr. and Mrs. Smith at the same time. So that way we're able to provide real-time data for your staff. Another thing that impacts our day-to-day operations is weather. And as we think about that, it's not just the temperature, it's not just the radar. There's a lot of other things that we also are wanting to know. For example, when we have severe weather coming in, we have the ability to add that information in a pop-up banner or as a crawler along the bottom of the screen. We also have the ability to make sure that we can post this information to where it is prominent throughout the day and make sure that we're planning and preparing to be able to respond during times of severe weather. We also have the ability to start bringing in things like um, flood warnings, river river gauges. You can also start thinking about other things that might impact your operation, and we can look at how we can actually bring that information in for you. Roads and traffic is also something that, depending upon where you live, can be a challenge for us. So we also have the ability to bring in valid, relevant information related to road closures, significant traffic, backups, and those kinds of things. And depending upon your area and what's available for information, we can even bring that information in a live camera stream, whether that's static images or whether, like you can see here from Maryland, where we can actually stream in the video. In addition to doing this, we also just recently brought on a customer where we're going to be bringing in harbor cameras as an example, so you can monitor ship traffic and some of those kinds of things. These are just examples of ways that we at First Arriving can help you bring relevant data into a single resource and make this available in real time, so that way your people are able to make educated decisions as they need to throughout the day. Now, the other thing that I want you to be thinking about, though, is that while this is all really good and it's something that a lot of us need, the other thing that a lot of us are also wondering about is how can we talk about the heart of our organization, which is our people? So the other big part of what we do at First Arriving is it's not just the data. It's being able to have a platform where we can put relevant data in a place of prominence in your fire stations, your ambulance stations, your police stations, and be able to share information like when your people are doing great work. And now being able to develop slides, and we've got hundreds of templates that we can provide for you. So that way you can be sharing relevant information, but instead of having to build it from the ground up on your own, you can utilize our templates to help decide how you want to put that information out there. We can stream in information from industry news, whether that's coming from Fire Rescue One, EMS One, Police One, as an example, from your Facebook page, from your website. We also give and empower your leaders to be able to bring in station specific news. So that way, if we needed to pass along from one crew to another at a particular location, you have the ability to do that. So we can do this at the station level. We can do this at the organization level. We can also do this at the information in general level as well. As you can also see, as you're wanting to understand what's going on in the national wildfire environment, as an example, we're able to bring in information from Esri and other similar websites so that you can see what's trending, what's going on. Obviously, the West is one place where wildfires and deployments are top of mind this time of year. As we think about springtime, as we think about the winter, we can think about blizzards and all those kinds of other impacts. And so, again, the idea here is just be thinking about how we can do things and how we can share information at the department level, the station level, our news streams, line of duty desks, things from the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, as I mentioned, even your own social media. All of these things are all available that we can have a conversation with you to determine what right looks like for your organization. And then from there, we can design a dashboard environment for you. So that way you have the information that you need to be shared across your organization. So, in addition to all of this, the other thing that I want you to be thinking about here is what can first arriving do to help your organization? As we can come to an idea where there is an opportunity for improvement, which I would argue virtually every organization in public safety today can improve how we communicate, then we can start thinking about what information we want to include. So if you think about coming on board with first arriving, and if this is a solution that you're thinking might be a good idea for you, the idea here is that we want to have a conversation with you. And that way we can sit down and we can start talking about what right looks like for your organization. We have to be thinking about what information you're going to want to include. And with all the different options that we've presented in this demo today, it's a matter of also thinking about how much information needs to be here. One of the examples that, and one of the other challenges that many of us hear about today is that I'm getting information from everywhere, and it's difficult to be able to synthesize and to be able to know what's important and actionable versus what's in an email, right? And if you think about the different ways that we communicate today, email, text message, carrier pigeon, right? All of these different things, it gets very, very difficult for our people to understand where they need to go to get their information. But then it's also a matter of, is it noise or is it important? And how can we work with you so that way the first arriving dashboard information becomes the source of truth, right? At the end of the day, what we're hopeful is that we can work with you to not only be able to provide this information and be able to provide it in a dashboard environment in one of your fire stations, as an example. Think about where your people get their information today. One of the other things that we have to acknowledge is that for most of us, we get our information from a multitude of different modalities. That can be a dashboard, it can be a physical display in the station, but it can also be a desktop environment. But what I can tell you, I have a 24-year-old son who's on the job. And one of the things that I know about him in his age group is they get virtually all their information from this device that I've got in my hand. And I think for most of us, that's one of the things we're doing. So, one of the other big advantages to what first arriving provides today is that this is not just a digital display that sits in your fire station. We also have the ability to take the information that we've talked about today, and now we can actually make it available from virtually anywhere. Okay. The way we do that is that for a very, very small amount of money compared to the dashboard environments in general, we can now make this information accessible by an individual username and password license where people can access this from virtually any place that they are. Now, if they're on their phone, we have a mobile app that will allow them to be able to access this information. If they're needing to access it from an iPad in the apparatus, they can use a web browser and be able to access this information right within the apparatus. If they're sitting in front of their desktop computer, now they have the ability to do this as well. And the other thing that we can do is that we can scale these views based upon instance. So, what I mean by that is if you think about an individual fire station, for example, that individual fire station, those personnel may or may not need to know what's going on in the whole organization. They're primarily concerned and wanting to focus on what's going on in their particular station. Now, one of the other things that we also need to think about is that when we think about that information, there may be people that live in that same location and work in that same location, but need different information. An engine company versus the battalion chief that's housed in the same quarters, as an example. So, the other thing that we can do at first arriving is that we have the ability to be able to take all the information that's been scrolling on the screen here and we can scale it based upon what an individual location needs to see. So if we're at Station 5, for example, and Station 5 has Engine 5 and Battalion 5 in it, we can have a display that would be for engine 5 that would be in the day room as an example, but then we can provide battalion 5 a view of their entire battalion and be able to see those resources that they have assigned to them throughout the day. So there is a high degree of flexibility that goes along with what we provide at first arriving and how you can access it. We are the one provider that can actually take your third party integrations, provide you with resources in which to customize views, and really highlight the good work of your people, and then be able to put it into a delivery system where people are able to access it where they need to as one company. So, as you think about if first arriving would be a good fit for you, these are the types of things that we would love to be able to schedule time to do an individual demo with you. And we can talk about your specific needs and how we at first arriving can actually build out a solution for you that's going to meet and exceed the needs of your organization, not just today, but also into the future. And as we think about that integration part of it, right? So if this is something that today sounds good to you, and you're like, this is probably something that we should seriously consider, but what does it look like to move forward with us? Let's talk about that for just a minute. Okay. So the next steps that we would take from a demo like this today is that we would schedule time for you to actually meet with our sales team. So our sales development representatives and our sales representatives are very well versed in our products, and we'll go through a discussion and a solution design discussion to be able to determine what right looks like for you. As we go through that process, we'll talk about budgeting, we'll figure out timing, we'll think about your fiscal budgets and when this would make sense for you. And that way, as you're ready to go, we're going to be ready to move forward with you. As we finish the sales process, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get you with our implementation team. Our implementation team are specialists in being able to take what we've talked about in your sales conversation and then be able to take those conversations and make them into your tangible dashboard environment. It'll be one of those things that if we've got API keys and other things like that that we need to be able to obtain to be able to provide the information that you want us to, we're going to walk you through that process, give you the instructions that you need on how to be able to get that done. And then from there, we'll be able to set up time with our implementation team to talk about the design and to build the dashboard environment. You'll be part of that process through the entire time. We'll give you a proof in concept, make sure that we're on target for what it is that you want your dashboards to look like. And then once we get that process finalized, we will ship to you the devices, which are just small Chromebooks that allow us to be able to display and send the signals to your displays and your stations. And then from there, your dashboards will be up and running. Now, that just gets you to the user part and the full implementation of the environment. But one of the other things that you have to understand is that even after we get you there, we're not going to turn you loose. We also have a great customer service team that is available to be able to help you with any technical issues that you have. If you have other things that you want to consider adding into your dashboard environment at a later time, maybe it's a new integration or you're changing your CAD provider, your records management provider, or whatever. We're going to be with you throughout your entire time with First Arriving to make sure that you're able to adapt this solution to be able to meet the needs of your organization, not just today, but into the future as well. So I want to pause here for just a second and see, Stephanie, do we have any questions about um, what we've talked about so far? Or does anybody have any questions that I can answer for you? If you do, feel free to put them into the chat and Stephanie can share them with me.
It doesn't look like we have any questions just yet, but we'll give folks a minute to add those to the Q&A. If you do have anything, please feel free to drop it in.
Right. Right. So while we're waiting to see if anybody has any feedback for us, the main thing that I want to re-emphasize to you today is that for many of us in the fire service or in public safety in general, we acknowledge that many of us are struggling to be able to communicate effectively today. And while many of us are acknowledging that it's a problem, very few of us have been able to identify a solid solution to be able to solve that problem and be able to improve your ability to communicate effectively and make sure that you've got an information platform that is going to share the right information with your people and give them a central location in which to access the pertinent information in your organization. Now, there's lots of different ways within the first arriving system and our information platform and how to do that. That's an important part of our process. And we may decide as we work together to start relatively simple. And if we do, that's fine. Just understand that as your agency embraces more technology and more platforms, our platform will be able to grow and expand with you to be able to meet the needs of your organization, not just today, but also into the future. But as we also think about the information platform and the things that we've talked about today, we also want to make sure that we're thinking about if this is a good fit for you. And it may be one of those things that, as I've talked about this, it may seem somewhat overwhelming. And it may be like, well, this sounds like a great idea, but it's more of a nice to have than it is a need to have kind of environment. So, my challenge to you is you think about that need to have versus nice to have kind of thing. And where does first arriving fit into that as a priority for your organization? Think about what the consequence is when you have people that are not getting their reports done on time, that their credentials are at risk of expiring, and other things that are not getting done because your organization struggles to communicate effectively today and to make sure people are able to stay compliant with what's required for the job. Remember that with First Arriving's solution, we have the ability to empower your people and improve that compliance as well as reduce risk for your organization, which may not seem like a lot today, but can be very, very tangible when you think about budgets and risk, lawsuits, and those kinds of things, and how we can actually help reduce a lot of that compliance risk for you, not just tomorrow, but in the future. But again, the other thing that we started about talking about today that I also want to reemphasize for you is all of the noise and information that's out there. One of the other things is we hear and have conversations with organizations. One of the other things that we hear very often in a demo environment or at agencies that we talk to is they're like, well, can we do this? And then before too long, it's can we do that? And can we do this other at the same time? The answer is sure, we absolutely can. But the question that I would offer is why should you? One of the other things that we want to do is we want to make sure that we reserve the first arriving platform to be that source of truth and for critical information and communication. So if it's information that's routine that can be communicated via email or something like that, we at First Arriving would recommend that you continue to use that communication conduit for routine information and communications. Reserve the First Arriving platform for those priority information and those things of prominence that we make sure are able to provide what your crews need and make sure that they're getting that information, including the dispatching that we talked about in a timely manner and in a new and engaging way to make sure that your people have the information that they need when they need it. So with that, I'm going to pause here. Stephanie, what else do we have?
Yep, we got a couple of
Yeah.
questions that came through. So,
Okay.
first one, how customizable is the platform and how does that affect cost? Many of the features are nice, but may not be applicable for their department.
Exactly. And so it's a fair question. And that's one of the challenges early on as we go through a sales conversation is there is lots of options. And so one of the very important things, the reason why I encourage you, if this is something that you're just interested in, let's sit down and let's have a conversation about what right looks like for your organization. There is a lot, and that sounds like an over exaggeration, but it's really not. There is a lot of things that we can do, and a lot of it depends upon what third-party integrations you use today in those buckets that we talked about. That includes dispatch, that includes records management system, learning management system, scheduler, inventory manager, and all of those kinds of things. And while we can bring all of that information in, one of the other important conversations we want to have is, does it make sense to bring that information into the first arriving platform? Or do you guys want to keep that siloed as just a standalone opportunity? Either way, it works for us. But so to really come back to your particular question of what options are available, it's more than we have time in a webinar like this to be able to talk about, which is the value in actually scheduling time with us to talk about your particular situation. Our sales team are really solution engineers, and we have a solution engineer on staff. The guy's name is Rob Kite, who can really help you define what right looks like from your organization. And from there, the cost conversation comes in, and we'll be able to give you a very definitive proposal for you to consider in your budget. And then we have the ability to make adjustments, and we can even phase in projects over a 1 or 2 or 3 year kind of situation, depending upon what we talk about in our conversation with you. So I understand your question. Would love to have that opportunity to be able to talk specifically with you, and we can schedule that time to do that whenever you have time available.
Next one is a question around calendars. What calendars are used for first arriving? Is it a first arriving calendar, Outlook, Calendar Whiz, etc.?
It's another great question. And again, so if you are using an Outlook calendar, if you're using Google Calendar, those are two of the primary calendar functions that we have. We have the ability to integrate both of those through the Microsoft platform. Our platform is primarily based in the Google environment. So we use Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets, and so on. But the other thing is that if you're in the Microsoft environment, you also have the ability to be able to import that information in individual spreadsheets. Again, the thing is that depending upon what you need or want, we can have that conversation. And so if calendar is the one thing that is of importance to you, we'll have that conversation and we can show you how we can actually make that work for you.
We've got some great ones here, Bruce. Is there a way to select specific first arriving screens at specific fire stations to send out select messages on the screen?
Very, very good. And, I really appreciate that question because that's actually one function that I failed to mention. So I appreciate the reminder. So one of the other things that our platform does have the ability to do is it has the ability to send messages to your people. In addition to that, that messaging function also has the ability to require an acknowledgement. So now when you need to communicate directly with your people, and that messaging can be scaled by station. Now you have the ability to be able to send a bit of information to station 5 and all of those people assigned to station 5 as an example. And not only can you message them directly through our backend admin panel, but you can require an acknowledgement of that message. And so that way you can verify that people did in fact maybe not read it, but they at least said they read it, which has value in it as well. And therefore, it does help to enhance communication with that degree of accountability to go along with it. So, fantastic question, and I really appreciate it.
And then our last one that we've got so far, what is the base level cost with the simplest platform?
Ah, Again, we've got somebody who's thinking about the budget, which that's always part of the conversation. And obviously, it will vary from organization to organization. So, one of the things that I will share about that, and there's information on our website about it, we basically have identified 4 levels of service. Okay. At the very, very rudimentary basic side of it, we actually have a basic subscription package. If you look at our website, the basic subscription package includes bringing in 3 integrations from third parties, right? So that's an RMS, an LMS, a CAD, or something similar to that. There are also other features that, even at the basic package, things like weather, your Facebook page, social media, those kinds of things are all included in there. And then it's a matter of a per location or per dashboard and a combination of the dashboard and views to be able to come up with the price per location. Okay. Now, in addition to that, from the basic level of service, we can go to a standard level. What happens when we go up in levels of service, it does increase subscription cost per year, but it also allows now more capability. So in standard, for example, now you can bring in more of the third-party integrations. More of what would be considered extra in the basic package is now included as part of the package. So one-off costs that may run up the cost in basic would actually be included in standard, and so on. Now, we also have an enterprise level. Enterprise levels for agencies that have really embraced technology. We're talking about 7 or 8 integrations from third parties as an example. So we're getting fairly complex. And then in addition to that, we've got additional views because you're a larger organization. So there's more customization that we need to do. Now, beyond that, we also do have some customers that really don't fit into a basic, a standard, or a enterprise level. Those are very much customized. And so what we do in a custom environment is that we're going to bring our implementation team in much earlier in the sales process, and we're going to go through a scale and a design build conversation with you that's going to start very early. And then we will determine costs as we go through that to determine how much work and how much development we're going to need to do for you. So going back to the very basics of your question, the basic level of service that we would provide is the very entry level part of it. At the very basic part of it, for one dashboard, that is $799. And there is also an additional setup fee that goes along with that you pay in the first year of having a subscription with First Arriving. And then after that, that drops off and you just pay your dashboard fee per year. So that's a per dashboard basis. We also have user accounts. For each user account, they're basically $30, and that gives your personnel the ability to have a username and password to log into this information wherever they are. And that's $30 per member per year. So again, that'll give you just some very basics. But then what we do is we actually build out an initial proposal for you, and we can talk about what actual costs for your particular instance would be in the demo.
Awesome. Well, I think
Yeah.
that's all of our questions, Bruce. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Like Bruce has mentioned a couple of times, we'd encourage you to schedule a full demo where we can take a deeper look at your current systems and show you exactly how they integrate with our real-time information platform. I dropped into the chat where you can schedule that live demo by either contacting us on our website at firstarriving.com/contact or by emailing us at getstarted@firstarriving.com. A copy of today's presentation will also reference and for sharing with colleagues who may benefit from seeing how our platform delivers critical information, whether on station displays, dashboards, or mobile. Again, I want to thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. We're excited about the opportunity to collaborate with you in the near future. Stay safe and take care.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.